So let's begin by saying that when you did that very good interview with Darren Aronofsky, one of the things he said was, look, people talk about it being literal. How can you be literal? I mean, the story is mythical, it's mystical, and he was implying right from the outset that the idea of doing a literal version of this story is completely mad. Of course, also assuming that the story he's doing is taking as its source, the Old Testament, which is only sort of 4 paragraphs. I mean, he's clearly looking, there's Gnostic text, there's Kabbalah in there's stuff from East and West. Again, he kept talking about this idea of there is a myth which involves water, which, goes through all different cultures and turns up in many, many different ways. And he and Ari Handel have thrown the net very, very wide. And they have come up with a movie which, in my mind, bears more relationship to science fiction. I don't say that in a bad way, incidentally, than it does to the tradition of biblical epics. I mean, it was interesting. Aronofsky said, I love 10 Commandments. But this is far more a kind of, for a start, the whole thing appears to be taking place, long ago in a galaxy far, far away. The landscapes look, like Tatooine, or sometimes they look like Mordor. Sometimes they look like, the Forbidden Zone from Escape from the Planet of the Apes. We have the setup at the beginning. The film starts, in the beginning there was nothing, which for me reads like a kind of George Lucas long ago in a galaxy far, far away. And then what you do is you're introduced to the characters, as you said in the interview. Russell Crowe specifically refers to the creator. We begin on a sort of magical land in which a drop of water falling from the sky appears to suddenly bring forth a magical flower. And there does appear to be magic in this land. There's this whole thing with the little gold fragments that they keep picking up and have got some kind of mystical quality. We're introduced very early on to an animal which is not quite a recognisable animal. It's sort of a dog, but it's sort of got griffin feathers and it's wounded. And the animals that are populating the earth are sort of recognisable, but sort of quasi-mystical. And in the middle of it all, we have the rock monsters, who are, I suppose, thematically, they're sort of Nephilim era.
Yeah, that's what he was tying.
Yeah, exactly. So they're fallen angels who have been forced to live within rock, and who, there is no two ways about this, look like the boulder creature that Tim Allen fights in Galaxy Quest, and talk like Optimus Prime. And they're huge and massive, and they are actually seen stripping the tree trunks in order, because you think, how is it that Noah and his family made that ark? Because the ark is the size of Ikea. Frankly, if you ever drive past Ikea in Southampton, that's the size of the ark that Noah builds.
I haven't done that.
You haven't done that.
But having seen the movie, I can imagine it's rather vast.
It's rather vast. And of course, you see these sort of Transformers creatures literally stripping whole trees with their rocky hands. So
I think Ikea might get onto that. I think they might sort of get your own ark. I think self-assembly.
Self-assembly. As long as you've got 6 fallen angels speaking with the voices of Nick Nolte and Frank Lang.
Could you have a flat pack, the ark?
Can I get on with this review? You're going to pursue the IKEA thing.
I'm intrigued.
Okay, so then what you have is this kind of Babel's Tower of different voices. You have Russell Crowe doing that sort of Robin Hood non-specific, it's a bit English but I'm not quite sure accent. You have the angels who appear to be American. You have Sir Anthony Hopkins as Methuselah, who is Welsh, and clearly it's like Anthony Hopkins got to the point in his career, like, I'm not going to do accents. I'm Anthony Hopkins, I can do whatever I want. And then Ray Winston bringing a touch of kind of pulpit posh to his Ray Winston. Well, actually, we've got a clip of Ray Winston.
Excellent.
So this is Ray Winston as effectively the adversarial character, who is the person who, I suppose, in the world of the film, and it's important to disconnect the world of the film from the world of the biblical text, is the reason why the creator, in inverted commas, and his fallen rockman have decided to send all this rain in the first place.
It has begun! Death comes from the heavens! This rain is meant to wash us off the face of this world. But we are men. We decide if we live or die. We are men, and men united are invincible. Do you want to live? We take the ark. Yes, it's rain.
You have to be quite clear that he doesn't say man united are invincible.
It does sound like
what he says is men united are invincible, but it is certainly something which is going to echo around the 5. We are men, and Man United are invincible. Chelsea are going down, but on the other hand,
Noah, let me in your ark. Now.
So now the thing about laughing is the film is preposterous. It is utterly preposterous. It is often exasperating. There are moments in it that don't work at all, and sometimes the straight-faced sort of po-facedness of it becomes a little bit wearing. But it is, I have to say, entertainingly bonkers in the fact that what it is a great big sweeping science fiction movie that has taken as its sort of root text a story which goes through various different cultures and will cause lots of people to have arguments about what it comes from. And where there was you talked about the thing about meeting the Pope, and they were at an audience with the Pope. They wanted a private audience, they didn't get it. There was a general audience, and then there was a thing afterwards that Russell Crowe tweeted, thanks at Pontifex for the blessing. And what did that mean? That he that they'd got the blessing on the project, and this was all to do with the fact that when Passion of the Christ came out, it was reported that Pope John Paul had said it is as it was, and the Vatican then said no, he didn't say that, but it was all to do with whether or not you'll get the congregational audience on board, because that's a big lucrative market. But the best way of understanding Noah is that it isn't that at all. It is a very broadly non-denominational fantasia with huge, great, big, roaring transformer monsters, which frankly don't work, with CGI serpents slipping in and out of magical serpent skins, with creatures which are quasi-mystical, sometimes partly recognisable, with Russell Crowe all teeth and hair arrangements. I mean, Russell Crowe's hair arrangement, there is an awful lot of, well, how am I going to be wearing the beard? How am I going to be wearing the top knot in this particular scene? And his performance is kind of impenetrable, because the central thing about the film is that he's not likable, not genial, not fatherly at all, but he's mad.
When he becomes
mad. He's effectively driven mad by the voices, or by the lack of voices in his head. He's told to do this thing, and he thinks he's told to do this thing, and he does it. And then he becomes, as you rightly raise it in the interview, he becomes somebody who is willing to do something which is quite appalling, because he thinks that he's been told that this is the thing to do. And then during the course of the movie, there is a kind of change, and what's happening there is there's a general move between vengeance and something else, which is somewhere over the rainbow for everybody who knows the various versions of the story. I think that if we believe in Noah at all, and frankly a lot of the time we don't, it's because of Jennifer Connelly. Because Jennifer Connelly, who plays Noah's wife, I think is really, really terrific, and she allows the audience to feel some kind of connection with Noah. And although she's got a very, very underwritten role and a slightly thankless task, I think it's because of her performance that we are able to engage with Noah. I think in terms of the film itself, if there's something holding it together, it's Clint Mansell's score, which I thought was very good. I mean, some people have been a bit critical of it. I thought it was really good. One of the things that was interesting was the score is kind of partly this kind of eerie futurism. There's a line in it which kept reminding me of that Bowie song, Wazoa, which was from around the time of Wazoa, around the same time that he was doing, Man Who Fell to Earth, and that's a kind of science fiction-y, eerie refrain. And then there's an awful lot of bombast, because obviously there is an awful lot of bombastic stuff happening. There is water pouring everywhere and the earth exploding and strange animals being lost and massive great big rock monsters bursting into flames and all that sort of stuff. So it's a science fiction movie that owes more to Lord of the Rings and fantasy, that kind of fantasy, and to some extent the dystopian future of Waterworld. And all those movies which nobody would ever sort of think about sort of, trying to nail down as to whether they're theologically sound. It has a sort of great big scenery-chewing central performance by Russell Crowe, which frankly, everyone keeps saying he's the only person that could pull it off. But for me, if you do engage with him, it's Jennifer Connelly that makes you engage. I think there are moments in it that are audacious. There are moments in it, many moments in it, that are flatly ridiculous. I mean, just silly. But silly, and I mean, some of the Transformers moments. I mean, there's a montage in it in which he referred to this. He does the sort of the creation of life, like a kind of MTV pop promo version of that Terrence Malick sequence from the Tree of Life. Well, it is, but it's it's that the whole film is at that same slightly ludicrous.
And I think within the first, we're going to come back to this in just a second. Yeah. I think in the first 30 seconds, this is going to be bonkers. Mm-hmm. it's it starts with the snake and it starts with the apple, and hey, we're off.
We're off, and we're going to do the glowing creatures and the pulsating apple, and we're going to there's going to be floods, there's going to be weird creatures, there's going to be big monsters, there's going to be fire, there's going to be Russell Crowe experimenting with a series of beards and hair systems, there's going to be Anthony Hopkins being Welsh. And at the end of it, you're free to make up your own mind. It is bonkers.